Hi, this is Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull, and this is the Zealot gene.
Sleep, the time's not yet.
Well, the name of the album being The Zealot Gene is about high emotion. It's about people getting their knickers in a twist, as we would say in English. In fact, in the title track, it refers to a wasp right up the bum. It's just, you know, really exemplified, or that's not the right word, typified by the use of social media to present opinions in a very often aggressive and deeply unpleasant and unthought through way. People just rant. They go off at on a mad rant about something, and it's always been like that, but I think it's been confined to cheerful banter in the local pub between mates, as opposed to ranting in public, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or some other social media platform. So I think I'm really talking about the degree to which people just go over the top with opinions, and it's aggressive in many cases. And I took as the starting point for a concept behind all of this to look at high emotions, positive, negative, good, bad, scary, prejudice, whatever they might be, drawing upon verses and text from the Holy Bible. That's not to say that I'm trying to show the Bible as being something unpleasant. There are elements that would be so deeply wrong today if the Bible was being authored in this century, especially in 2021 or 2022. You know, things that you just wouldn't put in print. It's deeply offensive and deeply unpleasant to a lot of people. But there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that you've got to see it always in context. This is about the many writers and contributors and indeed the translations of the text of the Bible over the centuries. And I think it stands up still as being, at worst, an important historical document. At best, it's an enlightening, an invigorating, and a spiritually uplifting document, particularly part 2. And in there you find a lot of stuff that is so much about the good things, so much about the positive things. So I tried not to let this album turn into a dark, evil, threatening kind of an album. There's lots of whimsical, uplifting moments, and most of the time I'm trying to take those elements that started off as biblical references and put them into a context of the present day. So I'm taking these elements of emotion and giving them a contemporary context. Not in every case, but in most of the cases. So whilst it derives its early impetus from elements of biblical text, it kind of leaves that behind. So I think if you're listening to it, you're not going to think, for the most part, that you're listening to anything that was inspired by biblical teaching. I'm not trying to convert anybody to anything. Indeed, I don't call myself a Christian. I call myself an appreciator and supporter of Christianity, because that's the culture into which I was born, 150 years ago. I think, however, I am always a supporter of the Christian religion, and very much always wanting to encourage people to raise their level of spiritual awareness, regardless of the portal that they use to get there, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism. It's a doorway. It's a door you can just crack open and have a little glimpse on the other side. And if you want to push it wide open and walk through, that's up to you. I'm not going to be the guy who tells you which door to use or how far to go. It's always a tricky matter whether you're writing a book, doing a live TV interview, or rarely writing a piece of music, to touch upon religion. Religion in any singular sense, regardless of its flavor and what headgear goes with it, you run the risk of offending people. And even to touch upon religious matters or spiritual matters will offend some people who are dyed-in-the-wool atheists or deniers of any kind of spiritual part of human existence. So it's dangerous stuff to do that. But if on the other hand you don't write about homeless people, if you don't write about population growth, if you don't write about environmental issues, you're not really reflecting the world that we live in. And for a big chunk of the planetary population, people are deeply wed to following the religion, usually that they were born into. It's a matter of birthright, of chance. I think to include that within the orbit of things that I think I should try to do at least once, if not more than once in my life, that I need to feel that I can do that. But I'm going to be careful about it and not make it so deeply the focus of a song. It's taking elements of something and using those elements and to extrapolate them in a way that has some relevance for at least me in the world today. So taking elements from the Bible, a line of text, a word of text, or a whole verse, or a couple of verses, whatever it might have been that stimulated a particular song, I'm trying to use it very much as a starting point. It's not even an hors d'oeuvre in a meal. It's the smell coming from the kitchen rather than any part of the actual meal. If you can understand what I'm getting at, it's something that makes you alert and aware, and you can then take that and do something with it. So I'm well aware that some people are maybe going to get a little upset, and a lot of people will just turn away from it because they don't want difficult stuff to have to listen to. But that's not reflected in the lyrics or the music. I think you'll find it pretty straightforward when you hear it and hopefully tap your foot along to the music. But for me, it's important to know where it comes from. It's important to have a starting point. And I decided, rather than keep it all a little bit vague and a little bit ethereal, I would explain it to those people, where the music and the lyrics particularly, where that comes from, what's the starting point of the process. I think to keep quiet about it, to go, not going to talk about that. Somebody's going to ask me the question anyway. Some people may deduce the origin from a song, and so I thought, well, let's just make it apparent, but at the same time, don't overstate it. So this is not putting the Bible to music. Far from it. This is taking little elements that appear not only in the Christian Bible or in the Old Testament, or indeed in the Quran, or in any other glorious book that is behind the teachings of any religion. That this is kind of universal stuff. It's just that being a lower middle class white boy growing up in the 50s and 60s, my reference point is what I was born into, and didn't particularly get involved with at that time. Although my set of sympathies and real relationship is probably with the Christian church, not as a practicing Christian, but as a great supporter of the Christian church. It's a doorway, it's a gateway into something that you may or may not choose to follow. From that point of view, I don't feel embarrassed about the origins of these songs, and I would defend them as a set of lyrics about universal emotions, usually pretty extreme emotions, good or bad. But that's what I set out to do, and I decided that the source would be drawn from the Bible, from text. But as I say, It's the smell coming from the kitchen. It's not the meal that ends up being on the table. What a great metaphor that is. I must remember to use that one again.